Well, with respect to our healthcare system and ministry, it is a difficult task at hand because they had put out a lot of information, asking citizens to be vaccinated in general. Um, However, worldwide there has been vaccine hesitancy uh, because we see a lot of negatives come from these vaccines. This was a new disease. This was a new vaccine technology for a lot of the vaccines, and a lot of people just didn't trust the new technology. One, a lot of people with the older technology, they were a bit apprehensive because there was a lot on social media about side effects of these vaccines. Looking at statistics, the probability of having a side effect was so low compared to the probability of having a negative outcome from COVID-19. But I think there's also a cultural shift to what we had seen, and we had a lot of people hearing about negative outcomes of vaccines. A lot of people thought that having a vaccine would actually prevent infection altogether, and those who did have a vaccine and then tested positive for COVID-19, although they did most of the time have an attenuated form of the illness, they were still very hesitant because they thought they would actually be prevented from having this disease altogether. So I think there were a bit of myths associated with vaccine that was spread quite widely that led to a lot of vaccine hesitancy.
Were they myths though? If something is new and people can't say what side effects there were or would have been, and then you have the vaccine makers coming out to say, okay, well, you're right, the AstraZeneca or the Johnson and Johnson, we do have some issues with clotting there. Was that a myth? If the general population is saying, well, the technology definitely developed quickly, that's not a myth either, it did happen. Wasn't that reason enough for people to say, okay, let me wait and see?
Yeah, so if we look at it that way, we do have governing bodies to look at control of medicines, and to have an approval, they must show that there is a clear benefit to have these things put on market. We have governing bodies like the FDA who are in charge of looking at these things to make sure that there's a level of protection that these things afford before they can get it on market. Because of, we knew it was new technology and that it had been uh, developed in a short space of time, but it would have still gone through some processes to make sure that it would have had some benefit. Of course, all medications are not without side effects, and it'll be uh, very premature to think that we'll have a magic vaccine that will have no side effects.